Com cabelos cor de mel, singela. Seu nome é Mabel. É uma menina cheia de vida. Vamos para a praia. Não esquece a sandália. Se olha pro céu. Se pudesse organizar, vai ser. Se a casa está vazia.
Bonjour, mabuhay. Good afternoon. I'm Mr. Jeffrey Donna, Security Supervisor. I'm here to conduct a safety briefing. We are here in the Luzon Function Room. Slide, please. During emergency case. Uh, Please remain calm. Leave the function room in orderly number. Proceed to nearest emergency exit door. If you can see at the back. The hotel staff will assist you during evacuation. Instruction in case of emergency or earthquake. What to do is, if you are inside the function room, stay calm and remain calm. Stay away from the glass or window. Duck, cover, and hold. And wait until the earthquake over. What to do in case of emergency evacuation is required to please proceed to the nearest emergency exit. Just walk and run. Do not run on what's and falling debris. Use stairs or do not use the elevator. The hotel staff will assist you at the designation evacuation area. In case of medical emergency, the hotel has medical clinic open at 24 hours. The doctors is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Next slide, please. We are now here the map of evacuation area. Next slide, please. Next slide. We are here emergency contact number 1300, the security office, and the hotline of the clinics of 1505, the hotel clinic. The telephone operator is 7777. The security hotline is 100880 and dial 0 or operator. The nearest hospital is San Juan de Dios, 3 kilometers away or minutes from the hotel. The hospital of Manila at 3.4 kilometers or 15 minutes away. The telephone number is 5260-63 up to 69. Next slide, please. Thank you.
One of the leading market experts for IPv4 leasing solutions, Larus Limited is the best IP address solutions provider for you. Larus promotes flexibility of address acquisition, including leasing, brokerage, and IPv6 training. With its Larus Foundation, Larus continually works with the global community to achieve a better internet for the future. The best IP address solutions on the planet, Larus Limited.
Hello, I'm Jim Bidzos, founder and CEO of VeriSign. VeriSign is a special place, and we are extremely passionate about what we do. Every day, billions of people rely on us, companies rely on us, and an immense amount of economic activity relies on what we do as stewards of the internet. For more than a decade, we've been at the very heart of the internet, providing infrastructure innovation, enabling key transactions, and protecting valuable data. That mission continues today. Our mission remains to deliver the network performance that helps to enable the full potential of the internet. Our customers look to us because we manage the most reliable network, processing billions of queries for more than 100 million destinations daily without fail. Our expertise in internet infrastructure is proven, and we're committed to improving and expanding our current infrastructure and services so they can meet the growth and demands of the future. Our commitment to innovation is nonstop. Our efforts at identifying, defining, and developing the internet of the future are squarely focused on uncovering how we can best leverage VeriSign's strengths to stay ahead of the internet's ever-changing landscape. At VeriSign, we strive to create a strong collaborative culture in which you will be continually challenged, inspired, and educated by your peers. We cannot achieve our goals without the people who come here every day and do what they do. Take pride in your work and take pride in where you work. Help us write the next chapter in the VeriSign story. Let's make it a great one.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. Well, magandang buhay, everyone! Magandang buhay, ladies and gents. Welcome to Sofitel Philippine Plaza for the Apricot 2023. I'm Ninja Tadifa, you're one of the hosts for today.
And I'm Glay Apolonio, your MCs for the opening preliminary.
Okay, to start up, we would like to showcase our cultural or Philippine cultural performance with our Sindao Philippine Performing Arts Guild. Let's give them a round of applause.
Aking umaliwan, tondo ay sidang iksina ni dumaan, ay salita. Aking umaliwan, tondo ay sidang iksina ni dumaan, ay salita. 동동아 시롱이나 임신이나 내로마
Wala ba tayong mga kamay, mga ka-aprikoy? Woo! For 2 years of holding conference through online today, we are now on a hybrid setup where everyone can join us either in Manila or through Zoom. This 4-day conference consists of discussion in current operational challenges and networking technologies, hearing forum, birds of a feather sessions, sorry for that, and other gatherings.
As this is the comeback of the apricot, currently we are around 600 participants gathered here today. We are composed of internet researchers, network operators, users, service providers, and policy communities which are gathered here to have with one goal, which is spreading and sharing the knowledge required to operate and enhance the global internet.
Without further ado, let us now start our conference by welcoming our Chair of Apricot to deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome Phillip Smith, our Apricot Chair.
I think the performance woke everybody up, didn't it? Thank you very much. Thank you to the MCs. It's been 3 years since Melbourne. It's so good to be back in person. I think we've almost kind of forgotten what in-person events are like. So I hope you all take this opportunity to, well, I suppose, renew friendships, make new friendships, get used to being able to be back together to meet each other. Apricot is really about bringing all the community together in all shapes and sizes so that we can actually have a productive week here. The workshops, the training last week is already completed. So this week we have 4 days of conference. We hope the program prepared by the program committee is interesting and that you find something that gives value to you that you can bring back home to help with your day job and your career in general. A lot has happened in the last 3 years during the pandemic, and we've lost one of the good friends of Apricot. And I'd like Maz to come up to the stage to pay tribute.
Thank you. At an Apricot and other conferences, some of us visited his room in the evening and talked with him various things. He was always active in the community, attending various meetings, even after he began using wheelchair. He was an open-minded person and liked to talk to many different people. Toru Takashi, a good friend of ours, and a pioneer in this industry, passed away 20th December 2022 at the age of 81. Even when the internet was not yet as popular as it is today, he believed in the future of the internet and worked with passion like an evangelist. He was a key in the commercial development of the internet, of the early internet in our region. He was involved in the Apricot from the early days as well. APIA was established as a legal body to organize Apricot, and he served as an early APIA board member. In 1998, he was elected to be chair of the APNIC Executive Council, where he helped with the search for next Director General, Paul Wilson. In 1998, his contribution to the development of the internet are well recognized, and he received several awards. I took this photo in 2006 when APIA recognized him for his contribution to API and Apricot. He was also inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame in 2012. I lost a mentor and a very good friend. Well, many of us have lost a very good friend and a good supporter of the internet industry in our region. I will miss his calm yet passionate attitude. We have learned a lot from him and were influenced by him. Rest in peace, Toru-san.
Thank you, Maz. Thank you, Philip. Of course, we will have another heartwarming welcoming remarks from our APNIC EC Chair, Gaurav Updaya.
Thank you. As Philip said earlier, it's been 3 years since Melbourne, and it is nice to see all of you. I guess we didn't plan for such a large audience, so, you know, a lot of people standing, no sitting space, so it's all good. To Philip, to Archie, the keynote speakers, EPD members, EC members, staff of Apricot, APNOG, and APNIC. We have a lot of AP organizations here. Obviously, APNOG, APStar, APTLD. This is truly a summit. So everybody who contributes to those and all of our participants at the conference. Welcome to Apricot 2023 and also APNIC 55. The last time I was in this hotel was in 2009 when we also had Apricot at the same hotel. And that was a great one. I have some fun memories from back there. Those who remember, that was the year of Prop 50. And we are back here, and I hope it's be the same. On the personal note, I've been coming to the Philippines for close to 20 years. And it's great to see the progress here. I was here actually with Phillip when the first PS-NOG happened. And I was also here to install the first internet root server. And since those days, almost 20 years ago, it's great to see the community here. Great to see PS-NOG grow. And so congratulations to all the PS community, including Achi and Bani and all the friends who worked hard to build the Philippine internet in the last many years. Also, a lot of you know that I've been involved with Apricot for many years. This is my 21st Apricot or 21st year of Apricot because we missed a couple of last few ones. This is also the last conference for me as APNIC EC chair because I'm stepping down. So, probably the last time I speak in the opening. So I'll quickly look through a couple of years of being on the APNIC and what we've done in the last 10 years or so, 12 years. Just reflectively thinking back, obviously IPv6, it was 1% about a decade ago. Now V6 adoption within APAC is close to 40%. Jeff has all the data to show. And RPKI moved much faster. Started in 2012, and we are 65% in Oceania and 35% overall. I'll not talk about DNSSEC because that's not a good data. We've also seen, back when I started coming to Apricot, there was only one NOG for all of Asia-Pac. Now we have a NOG almost everywhere. And a lot of that is to the APNOG board and people who work at Apricot, that we have a lot of these engineers and a lot of people being trained all around Asia-Pacific because of these efforts. Even within APNIC, the development area has grown so fast. Like we have now APNIC Academy, there's online technical assistance, to the point that we started the APNIC Foundation because we realized that the demand for that development work is really high. Also, to wave a little bit of my flag, we've also changed quite a bit of how APNIC reports its activity in the last 10 years. From a purely financial basis, you can go and look at our activity reports and how the organization has received feedback from its members and adapted to it. And we also changed how APNIC does member survey in the last couple of years by adding a local language translation, now in like 10 languages and so on. And also, I think I'd like to thank this community because last 3 years were not easy. COVID basically changed the way we did things. I think when we left Melbourne 3 years ago, we did not think that we are going to be stuck at homes for close to 2 years. And I think this community was in the middle of it. And I think we all were able to cope with that unexpected growth of traffic and all the pressure it brought in. So thank you very much to all the operators, and also congratulations to the community for making it happen. I'll start skipping some of these things. For the APNIC matters, it is the 30th year of APNIC. We'll have a celebration in Kyoto next year, given that APNIC was sort of founded in Japan. But, as APNIC continues to grow, Apricot continues to grow, we do need the community to work together, provide the inputs. And I can assure you that in the last many years I've been on the APNIC EC, the feedback from the community has been the most important for us to recognize and to work on. Obviously, people will ask, will you stop seeing you at these events because I'm no longer on the EC? I don't think that is going to happen. I'll be here. I'll continue to work with the community and raise our voice. And, you know, be here. And Maz just talked about Takashi-san. And I would like to reiterate that Takashi-san was one of the greatest friends of Apricot and APNIC. I remember him from the first time I was here, and you know, it was a big loss. I also would like to remember Vijay Gill, who was also a big friend of Apricot. And in fact, he gave a closing keynote in 2009 in this exact hall back in the day. So we lose some people, but you know, we continue to push on. So God bless the souls of Takashi and Vijay. And we learn from their experiences in the past. Thank you once again for participating this week. As I step down from my official roles, I'll be more around in the community, which has been hard in the past. And as always, please do stay around for the APNIC AGM on Thursday, which is going to be fun and interesting as always. Thank you very much. And, you know, welcome to Apricot and APNIC once again.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. Let's now call Mr. Achi Enchenza, our PHNOG chair, to give PHNOG welcome remarks.
Woohoo! Can everybody stand, please? Yeah. We'll do an exercise. Stretch your hands, both hands. Then put them together. Then do it faster. Come on, faster. Make a sound. Oh, thank you for the standing ovation. Yeah, thank you. All right, we have to document that. Okay, so should be a classic one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Of course, we need a backup, so don't sit down yet. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Please sit down. It's finally here. We prepared as much as possible as we can. But during the course of the preparation, I got a bunch of emails that asked me, hey, Achi, are you coming to Apricot? So it came to me that I could probably skip this, right? But, you know, we stayed, and then the volunteers are here, the organizers. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers as well for trusting PHNOG, the local community. And yeah, we pulled this up. Thank you very much. And together with that, I was able to check one of my bucket lists. So I always wanted to attend a conference wearing slippers. So good thing HR is not here, so I'm okay. But again, thank you and welcome to the Philippines. Welcome to Apricot 2023.
Thank you, Achi. So before we proceed for our first keynote, I would like to call Mr. Aftab Siddiqui from APNOG Chair for giving something special to our special someone.
Hi, everyone. Aftab Siddiqui, a bit of surprise. So I wear a lot of hats. Right now, I'm wearing the hat of a member of the community of the Asia Pacific region, mostly from the South Asian region. But right now, also wearing a hat of a board member of APNOG. I just want to share, with the permission of my APNOG board, I would like to share a small story about these flowers, story about myself, not the flowers. I just want to take you back. I mean, Gaurav mentioned a couple of points about the history and for how long he's been coming to all these events. I was just trying to calculate. This is only my 8th Apricot. So I'm old, but not that old, I guess. So I just want to take you back to 2006. The time a fresh graduate recently got a dream job of that time as a DSL support engineer in one of the largest ISPs in Pakistan. I I didn't know much about this ecosystem. I knew about APNIC because, of course, you need IP addresses, but not about the Apricot or SANOG. So it was quite surprising for me when I heard that SANOG is coming to Pakistan for the very first time. I said, oh, great. What is SANOG? So SANOG, for those of you who are not aware, is the South Asian Network Operators Group. So 2006 was the year when they first came to Pakistan, Karachi, where I was born. So being a new engineer, quite passionate, I was assigned, just like so many other here, as helping out in the event, I was assigned to help with the Wi-Fi network at the venue. And of course, because there were too many people there, so I said, okay, fine, you have 2 days to help out at the event, and those 2 days were for the tutorial days. So I said, okay, fine, I'll be there. Being, again, new, energetic, I end up going there too early in the morning. So the tutorial was supposed to start in the afternoon. But anyway, I went there. I said nobody was there. I was asked to be in a few of the rooms. So I went into the room and I found someone, a person looking around, trying to clean up the room from the previous workshop, and half inside a trunk with a big Cisco logo on it. So I know you're getting there. So I said, well, I'm here to help with the Wi-Fi. And he said, forget about Wi-Fi. Can you help me with the stuff? I said, sure, why not? I don't know much, but I'm happy to help. He said, just come over here. And I started helping with the switches and routers and all these things. And he started explaining. I mean, he looked at my face and probably realized that I have no idea what I'm doing right now. So he said, okay, fine. And he started explaining about each device he was moving around. He was backing up, putting everything back into the trunk. And he started explaining all about all these devices. So as I said, I wasn't very much familiar to the environment or to the SANOG. I knew about Gaurav because Gaurav was Gaurav or SANOG was synonym at that moment, or Suman Bhai, who was very much involved in that time, but never heard about him. And then later on, I found out that he's been doing these workshops and the training for many years. And you will be surprised. 2 days back, 17 years later, he has just finished a 5-day workshop. 5-day long workshop. So he's been doing it for probably more than 30 years. I can safely say, at least for the South Asia and the Asia Pacific region, 80%, or maybe more than that, of the network engineers who touch routers or who run BGP have learned something from him. Probably in his tutorials, probably in his workshops, or probably watching his YouTube videos. I'm very much sure this story resonates with a lot of people who are here, because that day, 17 years ago, really changed my life in order to understand a lot of things I wasn't aware of. And the most important thing was, don't be afraid to ask questions. It helped me a lot. I'm standing here today, 17 years later, because of that small interaction with someone. Probably that person has changed so many lives, created so many network engineers, taught them so many good things. But what we have given him in return? Well, at least last year, all the efforts he did for last 25, 30 years were recognized as one of the topmost, recognized with the topmost honor of our industry. To give more details, I just would like to welcome my fellow APNOG board members on the stage. Gavin, do we have Raf? We have Maz. One person who's not here is Ole Jacobson, who's watching us online. And I just would like to say, because of all these efforts, the person was honored with the Internet Hall of Fame. That is the topmost award from our industry. in your biggest round of applause, with the permission of my board members, I would like to invite Dr. Phillip Smith on the stage to honor his efforts for the community and for the whole internet. Dr. Phillip Smith.
You've been in the middle. Yeah.
Yes.
Escape from the food. You need the selfie.
Thank you, everyone. So now we can resume with our normal program. That was just an intervention. Thank you for the help given by Archie and Molly to keep it a surprise. Only few people knew about it. So thank you to the MC looking at my request to just put me in the middle. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Wow. Internet Hall of Fame, Sir Phillip. So for our next session of this program, we will have our first keynote from AWS Distinguished Engineer, Mr. Paul Vixie, our DNS guy.
Thank you, and good afternoon. So before I speak, I want to say that Amazon doesn't necessarily know I'm here, and I may or may not be representing the company's opinion. They don't have a published opinion on any of this. You're hearing from me, and I just want to make that clear in case there are lawyers in the room. Very well. Some of you have observed some changes in the last 10 years or so in the way the internet is being built. The direction of protocol development has changed. And I have given any number of talks around the world about something called DOH, DNS over HTTPS. This is a follow-on from that work, sort of the logical next step. And it's a little bit scary because the things that we're doing are not always being done with full knowledge of what the side effects will be. So I'm hoping for questions. I know it's a keynote and that's normally not done, but I am hoping that we will have some questions. I'm hoping that I can find the button. Ah, there we go. So fundamentally, we used to have an internet that was mostly based on a reliable stream protocol called TCP/IP. In fact, TCP/IP is in many minds synonymous with the internet itself. TCP is one protocol, IP is another. It turns out you can have other things that are on IP. You don't have to have TCP with IP. One of the things that you could have is UDP, the user datagram protocol. And we're about to have a lot of that. Historically, UDP has only been used for LAN applications like file servers, or for the DNS or the time protocol, things, really low-level things. Now it's going to be used for everything, and I'm going to explain why, and also explain what that means, what that could mean. This is not working. Ah, all right. So it comes about as kind of one of many results of a man named Edward Snowden famously making some disclosures in 2013. Talk a little more about him in a moment, but the idea that came out of those disclosures was You should not let any clear text that describes your application, your identity, your activities, shouldn't let that out. You should not let any middle box, either in your own home or company, in your ISP, in the world, in the far end ISP, it should not be possible to tell who is doing what or why. I'm not going to get into the specific reasons why that is so. That's just what the result was. And TCP in that sense was a problem because it's clear text. It is, it's part of the original Internet protocol suite. It came about after NCP, and the idea was you would, the operating system of your application would make a connection to the operating system of some other server or host or whatever somewhere, and it would then broker that operating system at the far end, would broker your connection to some local application. Could be a file transfer protocol, could be anything. But the idea was that everything about the metadata of your connection was visible. And in the early days, the actual user data was also visible. There were people who were outraged when the command line utility called TCP dump gathered an option to be able to display the contents of a packet, because it was thought that if we didn't display it, then no one would know what the content of the packet was. And that's the wrong way to think about it. If you put it on the wire, someone who was interested in it can find out what's in there. Just because you don't add the option to the utility doesn't mean that somebody can't write their own utility. So when we do this with UDP, it will be different. The operating system will have a much smaller role, and the application, typically a web browser, and at the far end, the application would typically be a web server or a web service platform of some kind, will be only responsible for accepting your payloads and delivering them to the network. It will have no understanding of why you are sending that particular payload, what it means. When you receive one, it'll be the same level of opacity. It'll just be this random jumble of bytes that only the application, who is actually a member of that conversation, will understand. This seems like a good idea if you want end-to-end communication secrecy by default. In other words, it is a good answer to that question. I'm not entirely in agreement with the question, but I understand the answer. So there are some implications. So for example, if you have an endpoint detection response, sometimes called EDR, if you have an EDR system, like an antivirus or some other anti-malware application, it would normally be in the kernel. It would be some sort of plugin. It would be in the data path between the application and the far end. And there would be things like system calls. For example, you'd like to make a connection to a far end, so you'd use the connect system call. And your endpoint detection and response, your antivirus would have a chance to intercept that connection request and say, you're connecting to something that is bad policy. We know that where you want to connect to, that's a dangerous place. We're going to prevent that happening. Okay, that cannot be done in a QUIC world. There is no visibility. There's no way to know that a connection request is being made or anything else about why this packet is being sent. Nor can you stop it on the other side, because the far end has to accept your connection. You can't stop it there either. There will be no in-network or in-kernel protection in this world. Everything will be opaque. This has implications, which I'll come back to. Yeah, try and move along here. So many of us live or work or both in what is called sometimes a managed private network. In other words, there's a firewall. And that firewall's job is to somehow defend against some bad things. The bad thing could just be a policy that maybe you're required to have that policy by your regulator. Or it could be that you have certain parts of your own network that are not secure, and you have to prevent them from reaching the outside world lest they injure something using your network, thus causing your phone to ring.
or I guess it would be Slack today or Signal or something, but you get the idea. I have always had a firewall. I was, at a research lab in Palo Alto, California in 1988 when one of the early firewalls for Unix was developed, and I had to write the rule set because I was running the corporate gateway for that company. And from that day to this, I've always had a firewall. And sometimes people laugh at me and they say, you should have zero trust, or you should have, you should just protect your, upgrade your endpoints so that they are not capable of doing bad things or having bad things done to them. I don't know about you, but a lot of the things on my network are things I don't have the source code to. Could be Internet of Things. Could be that no one has the source code. It may be that the company who made it is out of business. That would be called abandonware. Or it may be that that company is still in existence, but some of the middleware that they put into the product I bought has, it belongs to a company that went out of business, and no one is capable of fixing bugs or even knowing what bugs exist in that. And so patching it is out of the question. A lot of this stuff, patching is out of the question. A lot of this stuff has had its supply chain poisoned and is vulnerable to all kinds of things. And the people who made it might not be able to do anything about that, or they may be responsible for it. So it's very hard to update, to patch, to have secure endpoints, right? So I have a firewall. I have it at home. I have them at work. There are rules about what you can do. And if you don't follow the rules, then what you're trying to do won't work. You might also trigger an alarm or an alert somewhere. It would be wonderful to get to some utopia of the future where it is not necessary to have a network level defense. We're not there today. We're not going to get there from a forced march based on Edward Snowden's disclosures from 2013 either. So the firewall doesn't have to be at the packet level. It could be a web-based firewall, or it could be a DNS-based firewall. There are a lot of different ways to say this traffic shall not pass because I can see what it is. It contains a signal that I consider to be dangerous or policy violating. And again, this is how a lot of networks have to run, particularly if you're a government agency, but a lot of corporate networks and a lot of home networks, if you think about family filtering. Now, there are some obvious problems with this. We would not have chosen this as a model. This is what this model evolved out of the internet itself, out of just sort of the side effects of all of a sudden we've connected everything to everything. And that turned out to be mostly a good idea, but occasionally a bad idea. So we have this method of trying to tell the difference. And boy, we would have designed it very differently if we had known that this was going to be a problem. So firewalls are a hack, but I've often thought that if we knew what we were doing, we could not have had an internet at all because we would still be working on it. Right. The economics kind of prevent you from being able to enumerate the good things that you should be allowing on and off your network. It's just, there's too much of it, and it would take too much time for too many experts to make a specific list of, okay, this is good. This is a good thing. If you see this, let it through. If it's not this, or if it's not one of these things, then drop it. We're not going to get there. It would take a massive effort, and I'm not sure that there's a market for that, the results of that effort. So what we do instead is we look for anomalies. We say most stuff is okay, but if you step outside the lines, then we're going to notice that, and maybe we will let it through, but send an alert somewhere, maybe we'll block it. But what that means is that a bad actor trying to get in or out of your network is going to have to try their very hardest to blend in with the traffic that you think is normal. In other words, don't be an anomaly. Okay. That also has problems, but not as many problems as trying to maintain a list of the good stuff. So here's where things fell apart, right? I mentioned firewalls are a hack. And once you've got endpoints that want to be secure, they want to be a managed private network, inevitably ISPs are going to want to have the same privileges, or nation state actors. They also want to observe the traffic. They also sometimes want to be able to filter it. And that is at the heart of what Edward Snowden talked about in 2013, was the abuse of the observation and filtering privileges by actors in the middle. So there isn't really a way to build a new network full of whatever, laptops, servers, IoT devices, et cetera, and put it all together and say, okay, that's secure. Right? It wouldn't matter how modern any of the hardware was or how recently you had patched it. You just can't understand what you've done. By the time you've got a network that is useful for anything, you have exceeded the complexity tolerance of the human mind. And so there is no such thing as an effective modern site that is secure. You're making guesses, you're making bets, you are accepting risks. Those risks are often statistical in nature. You don't know exactly what the problem is, you just know you have one. Oh, wait a minute. Thank you. All right. And often it's about behavior rather than specific signals. Antivirus pattern files don't tend to work very well. If you tried to have a list of all the bit patterns that if you see them, you know you're infected, then you would have to update that every second. And it would take about a megabit of bandwidth for everybody on Earth, because that's how much bad stuff is churning. So we're not going to get there that way. We are really looking at the packets and the flows that are coming from our devices. And again, we're looking for anomalies. And we're finding them. It turns out they are all over the place. A lot of people are sort of constantly probing. And so you end up with this other list. Yeah, these anomalies are known anomalies. I don't love them, but I can't do anything about it. So we're just going to drop those packets. If this sounds like a hack, I got to tell you, firewalls are a hack. And I want to say that if you're breaking a rule or you're breaking a law, it's probably on one end or the other, because the internet's global, and whatever rule you have on your end, whatever law you're trying to follow on your end may not apply at the far end. So you can't exactly reach out to law enforcement and say, hey, I'm being attacked, I want this to stop, because the attack is probably coming from some other nation. It may not even be illegal there. So to be behavioral is to have both too much security and too little. So it's not working. We wouldn't have done it this way on purpose. We don't like it. That's the situation we're in. That's the situation that QUIC is in. I mentioned complexity. I want to say that there was a time when at least 15 people that I can see from the stage here knew everything. And you don't now. There's too much to know. So that gave us an irrational sense of confidence that we could build a safe network. And that may have been justified in the mid-1990s, but it is not justified now. If you think you know what's going on in your network, you owe me a beer. So statistical confidence, where you're just saying, yeah, I've probably been attacked, I'm probably been penetrated, I'm probably in trouble, but if it's not causing a problem I know about, then it's not going to compete for my priorities. My hair is already on fire from problems I do know about. I can tell you from working on the Conficker botnet remediation that we routinely called people who had entered our sinkhole, and we said, hey, you've got whatever 2,000 infected PCs, and they're all infected with Conficker, and they're checking into our sinkhole. And I can give you the IP addresses I'm seeing, I can give you the timestamps, and no, they just didn't want to hear it. Look, it's not doing anything. It's checking into your sinkhole, but I've got things that are doing things, doing bad things. I'm going to spend today working on those. I'm not going to remediate these hosts until they are actually behaving badly in a way that's harmful. Okay, I guess staffing and budgeting has been a problem. Who knew? Famously, the Office of Personnel Management which is an agency of the US government, had been breached. And eventually the breach got bad enough that it hit the headlines of the newspapers or the online news sites. And it turned out that they knew they'd been breached, and they knew exactly which nation state actor had breached them and how long ago. But since every security clearance that passed through the US governments passed through that office, they would have had to tell the US government, I'm sorry, you can't have any more security clearances until we shut all of this stuff off and rebuild it in a known good state, right? That's just a certain way to get yourself fired, so you don't do that. And so they just ran, and they just tried to keep a lid on it, and eventually the lid blew off. That is maybe a terrible example and maybe a rare one, but I just have to tell you, being breached is a matter of statistics, and you probably have been, you probably are. And one of the reasons that problem isn't so intractable is that if you successfully defend, then your payoff is that you get to successfully, or at least try again to successfully defend tomorrow. If you successfully attack, then your payoff is maybe that you get to buy yourself a new very fast car that you will then make YouTube videos about or whatever. The bad guys are much better incented than the good guys. I don't see that changing, but those are our operating conditions in security. So if you're wondering why the complexity keeps growing, it's because every increase in complexity makes some new whiz-bang feature that people are willing to pay extra for. And they don't worry about the complexity total. They just worry about their incremental complexity. And they see their incremental complexity as a feature because it makes them more money. So this is all about economics. If you want to know how somebody's going to behave, then figure out how they're incented. Most defenders are simply really good-hearted people who are trying to keep the bad thing from happening because they're not going to get rich doing defense. So we're in a world where defense requires rule breakage. Firewalls, in addition to being a hack, are a rule breakage. They were not part of the internet architecture. They were just an opportunistic thing that we shimmed into the internet architecture once things started going terribly for us. And what that'll tend to mean is that your operating system has to either trust its applications and thus not get in their way, or not trust their applications and then put all kinds of filtering. There are all sorts of host level firewalls that say, yeah, this application doesn't have permission to open a file in a certain place. And that's the only way we can keep a bad application from doing bad things. And we rely on that. And it's not just at the host level. If you are operating a network, a managed private network in my case, then you're counting on that also because you have no idea what the manufacturer of that smart thermostat put into it. You don't know if the IoT device that is in your kitchen appliance has the shell shock bug and is thus able to join botnets and use your home network to send DDoS. And unfortunately, the same is true of authoritarian governments, right? Most dissidents are breaking some law. And so they see this as the same problem that a site security administrator or a host administrator would see. And on the other hand, if you're a passionate defender of human rights and human freedom, you would say, I want total opacity in my signaling. I can't have it be that some random person in the middle is able to see what we're doing or stop what we're doing if they can't see it. You're going to get one result or the other. You're not going to get a blend of the two. So after the disclosures of 2013, the IETF published 2 RFC documents. That's a request for comments. They are kind of the stone tablets of the internet. And these did not directly specify a protocol. What they said is these are going to define our goals. This is a goal statement for the IETF itself. One of them said that pervasive monitoring is an attack, which seems obvious until you realize that there's no way to know if monitoring is pervasive or not, right? If I am let's say, the father of a family and I want to monitor what my children are doing, there is no human rights argument against what I want to do. But you can't tell that the person who wants to monitor the traffic is pervasive or very non-pervasive, very specific. In other words, the owner and operator of a network. So what this really says is monitoring is an attack, pervasive or not. The other one said that the internet is for end users. And if that sounds crazy, I invite you to read the document because it is. What we're saying here is that the user is the fundamental unit of internet value. And the operators and owners of every network, including the one that user is attached to, don't get a vote. They will not be allowed to participate in rule setting. Okay, so when I saw this RFC, one of the things I did is I checked my own skull. I checked every part of my own skull looking for the RJ45 jack, and I didn't find it. And so what this really says is that the internet is for smartphone makers, because we are not connected to the internet, and the devices that we are using to do all of our work are not really owned by us. We don't really control them. I know we pay for them, but we don't really control what they do. So no carve-outs were made in any of this for any of the things I've said. Monitoring for site security. What if it's an intruder trying to get out? Well, intruders have rights now. The internet is for them. They are end users. Defense against surveillance capitalism or malware? Nope, sorry. Malware has rights. And I'm giving this to you straight, even though it may sound like this is a comedy act and that I'm going to say April Fools. I'm not. You can read these documents for yourself. So I'm not going to read this, but I will say that in this RFC, they're saying, yeah, the quick wire image, that's the packet format on the network, is not specifically designed to be distinguishable from other UDP traffic. Okay, I know that's true, or at least it's truthy, but it's not as true as it could be. So as a member of that working group, I said, can't we change this, please? Can we say that it was specifically designed to be indistinguishable from other UDP traffic? Because that is the truth. And this working group is on record having said it. In fact, it's in the other two RFCs that I just described to you. But the working group fought me on this, and they said, no, we're not going to change the text. We like it the way it is. I mentioned performance in the title, so let me just say in passing that if you can see the metadata about a connection, these are TCP headers, then you have some chance of guessing what's about to happen. You can predict congestion, or you could even respond to congestion by changing some of these numbers on a packet as it passes through your load balancer. None of these numbers is present in the quick wire format. So to the extent that any kind of performance evaluation, prediction, or management was being done by looking at the transport headers, they're not there. I know I'm running out of time, but this turns out to also be important. TLS is the fundamental encryption protocol used by the internet. I know there are some others, but this is most of it right here. Version 1.2 is what we have. Version 1.3 is rolling out today. And it's possible to have today a next generation firewall that looks at the transport headers and also looks at the TLS headers in order to find out what is the name of the website you're trying to get to. And this is important because many websites are on a shared IP. There might be a single IP address with, millions of different web identities that it's willing to answer for. So you can't tell by looking at the IP address, which is still present. You can't tell by looking at the IP address exactly what website this particular client is trying to reach. And it may be that you need to know that. You might have a list of websites that violate policy, a list of websites that are known to infect everybody who comes to them, Or it might be the other way. You might be saying, look, I'm not going to allow random web access, but if it's to this set of web host names, then I will let it through. So sometimes it's positive pressure, sometimes negative pressure, but it relies on knowing the name. Okay, well, so does nation state bad actor work depend on knowing the name. And so they're going to encrypt this. And in version 1.3 with the encrypted client hello, it is encrypted, and only the far end, only the web server that you're connecting to is going to have any idea what name you want it to act as. Whether this seems like a good or a bad idea depends on how much you rely on what your next gen firewall is doing for you today. There are not good ways to get around this. You know, one thing that you could do is say, all right, I can't afford to fight. I am small, the internet is large. I'm just going to let all this happen. I'm going to let what little security, what little statistical confidence I had go by the wayside and just let the rest of the world determine what my network is going to do. And if somebody calls me and says I'm spamming them, I'm going to say, look, go read RFC 9258. It describes why I can't stop spamming you. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. But you could also say, look, I can't afford not to fight. And then you're going to do the thing that people have been telling me I was crazy for doing all these years. You're going to block all UDP in and out of your network unless it's coming from your servers doing your work that you trust. And you're going to force every one of these newfangled QUIC devices to fall back to TCP/IP so that they will be subject to your firewall rules. You will, of course, have to also block TLS 1.3, and a lot of next-gen firewall operators are already doing that. If you do 1.2, they will look at your host name, they'll decide whether you can get out. If you do 1.3, you just can't get out, and you'll be made to fall back. And the web people, knowing this, are saying, yeah, we need to get rid of that fallback. It needs to be 1.3 works or the connection is not made. Why is that? Well, it's because of this. It used to be possible for any of these operators, any of these agents, and indeed a number that I didn't put on here, to decide whether to allow something through or not. And this was bad. This was bad for one thing, because nation state actors could do bad things to personal freedom using the openness that you see here. It's also bad because surveillance capitalists have to let you decide whether your ad blocker is going to work or not. And they don't, we are not reliable network operators for the people that we're buying devices from. So this is what we have now. I leave you with this thought from Shoshana Zuboff, who is a 1 in 2 generations talent in terms of her ability to clearly see what's happening and clearly describe it. The challenges of epistemic justice and epistemic rights in this new era are summarized in 3 essential questions about knowledge, authority, and power. Who knows? Who decides who knows? And who decides who knows? I submit to you that the answers to all 3 of these are changing after 2013, and that we may not like the world that this takes us to. Please read that book. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Let's invite Phillip to give something to Mr. Paul. Phillip. Thank you. Thank you. For our second keynote speaker, let us please welcome Mr. William Torres, or Mr. Bill Torres, School of Information Technology from Mapua University. He is considered to be one of our founding fathers of Philippine Internet. Please welcome Mr. Bill Torres.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'd like to start by saying there is something I found common between what the previous speaker shared with us and what I will share with you. And that is unbounded complexity. It says more, no, what's up? What was that? Few know much and nobody knows all. Many knows little. Few know much, but nobody knows all. Well, that is what I'd probably share with you. I cannot move you from the left to the right. Okay. So I'm going to talk about very briefly something that is already very popular in the media. And the second term, the digital transformation, is really very popular, but I suppose the first, digital enterprise ecosystems, is not. So I'd like to link the two together, and hopefully we'll know a little more about what digital transformation can be. Who controls? So this slide tells you that as far back as 1996, somebody predicted of what it will be after 1996. And he divides the time frame into the economies of scale, economies of speed, and economies of convenience. And if you look at the matrix, you'll find that some of the things have happened, not perhaps using the same terms, but close to what is happening. And I'm showing this slide because I think we probably need to also predict a little bit ourselves. And in my case, before the COVID-19 started, I was asked to give a talk to a group. It was the 25th anniversary of Philippine Internet. And the title of my talk was Predictive. Philippine Internet after 25 years will be the Internet of digital ecosystems. And I think that is already happening, maybe not in the way I thought about it before, but I'm sure you will see some nuances of what's going on. Next. This is a description of what has happened, and they've coined terms like digitization, something that we all know. And then today I hear a lot about digitalization, and then of course, digital transformation. From left to right, going up, you will see that things become more, not only become more complex, but become more sophisticated and perhaps become of more value. Next. There is a difference between digitalization and digital transformation, and this chart shows you. Most leaders tell us about digitalization as if we are already into digital transformation. And we hear that from our politicians and also from our business leaders. But digital transformation is something much more than digitalization. And for lack of time, we will not discuss them, but the idea is that digital transformation is not about technology. It's more about people and about how people use technology. And that is what I'd like to challenge you. Perhaps we should move from just using technology for technology's sake, but finding meaning in how we use technology. And that is what I believe can be called digital transformation. Excuse me. Can I have water? I'm sorry, I'm 90 years old, so I need water. Next. Now, this is a very interesting chart. And this was a survey done before COVID, 2019. But it was published in 2020, and I saw it, I think, the following year. There was a survey of 8 economists, and they are shown in bold letters. And at the same time, there was also a survey of Asia Pacific markets. And this graph shows you where the participating countries are in terms of the journey towards digital transformation. And you will find that Singapore is on the lead. Okay, and it's followed by UK, US, Germany, New Zealand, and Japan. And we find other countries. My country is at the tail end. But here we have to be very careful. We're talking about countries. Even in countries as poor as our country, there's probably some organizations that can claim that they are on the way to becoming mature in digital transformation. So I will come back to this slide at the end, but let me just ask you, where is your country on the trip towards matured digital transformation? Well, not all of us are halfway. Many of us are behind the leaders. Next slide. Okay, this slide tells you how much is being spent on digital transformation. More than half of spending for ICT will be on technologies and services and products towards digital transformation. And that, I think, is a measure of how important digital transformation is. And I suppose all of us need to find out where we can play a role in speeding up the use of the right tools to be able to move up in the maturity scale of digital transformation. I don't know what is the status of spending now, but I have a feeling that what happened during COVID was there was a slowdown in spending, but I think it went up very fast. And I am sure if this prediction in 2019 is not achieved, it is close to achievement and perhaps even more. Next. Okay. We turn to digital ecosystems. This chart is 2007, but modified over the years. And it's a ladder of how we have progressed in the way we use the internet. And we started with email, and then websites, and then e-commerce. At the top ladder, we have digital ecosystems. And this is the trend that many countries are far from moving towards the upper ladder. And in particular, small and medium-scale enterprises. The big companies, the big institutions, they go into this. But the small ones, they cannot afford it. They don't have the people, and so on and so forth. And so our challenge is really how to move, like in my country, more than 90% of all enterprises are micro, small, and medium enterprises, less than 200 employees per company. Okay, and ask yourself about in your country. We are not going to move up the ladder or the scale if we do not change the way we use technology. And that is what I think I'd like to convey as a message of this talk. How we can move faster and make use of the internet better. Next. So I'd like to just share with you the concept that enterprise does not mean company or business. It could mean many things. The dictionary says that if you have something very difficult to do, and it will take a risk to do it, and it'll take resources to do it, then perhaps you can call it an enterprise. Like when you say climate change, something very difficult to do. But we need to create a big enterprise to address that concept. And then if you can think of a small enterprise as well. A small startup, for example, who wants to become big is also an enterprise. Okay, so enterprise is a generic term for what we'd like to consider in our discussions. So when you think of enterprise, you ask the question, what kind of enterprise? There are many kinds, as I indicated. What kind of interdependence do they have? Different enterprises, different sizes, different interdependencies. And so we have to be careful about what we're trying to look at in terms of developing this thing called digital ecosystems. And the last question would be, there are already enterprise ecosystems, meaning enterprises that work together towards a goal, making use of resources and so on. But how do you transform them towards becoming digital enterprise ecosystem? So these are the challenges that I'd like to pose. I have no answers. I have tried to find answers for my country, but I think you have to find answers for yours. Next slide. What is a digital enterprise? Very simple definition, but be careful. This statement does not define what it is. It's very complex when you think of the reality of enterprises and ecosystems. So the definition says, interdependent group of enterprises, people and or things that share standardized digital platforms. And this is for mutual benefit to them, and it could be different kinds of benefits. So this is a definition of a digital enterprise in simple terms. Next. Now for us, who are a little bit knowledgeable about technologies, this is again a model which is something that has been upgraded over time, but it looks at our industry as 4 levels of digital ecosystems. The top level are the users, the user type of enterprises. And the lower level, the lowest level is the telecoms company. Can I have that water again, please? It is the middle layers, the 2 layers, where we find ourselves. We have digital ecosystems of different sorts that we are already having in different degrees. So I characterize these levels as telecom services at the bottom, and then the enterprise ecosystems at the top. And I consider the 2 layers as the ICT ecosystems. But if you think about it using the model I'm suggesting, you can think of them as digital ecosystems, a mix of digital ecosystems at each level. Next slide. And I'm close to the end. The world bodies, the world uh, uh, global bodies like World Economic Forum have already made some big statements about what we need to do in terms of digital ecosystems and digital platforms. And recently, the US has come up with a framework for digital ecosystems that might be useful to our countries. These are things that are developed over the last few years, and it's time to really take a look at them and find out which of those are appropriate to our countries. And this is my last slide, where the challenge or challenges that I'm sharing with you can be expressed in these 3 slides. The first challenge is really, as a country, how do we move our country up this scale? Okay? It's not just to catch up with other people, but it's really for being internationally competitive, or building our country, changing the way we do things because things are moving faster and things like that. How do we scale up? So that's a challenge, and that will not be addressed to us as technologists. This will be addressed to us as communities of leaders, from political leaders, business leaders, education leaders, and so on. But it's good to know where we are so that we'll know how far we have to go. The left lower slide is what I have shown you. What we need to do is to evaluate what we have done in the 4 steps of that ladder, try to understand that, and perhaps find out what are to be done in order to move higher towards the 5th and the 6th steps. So instead of focusing on one enterprise or business processes within an enterprise, we need to look at combinations of processes. And we're not just talking about integration. We're talking about really designing from the beginning of how things can really be done better. And that is where we will try to go and move towards. And in particular, and I repeat, the big companies can do it. They have the people, they have the money, but unfortunately, the small players do not have these conditions. And therefore, what we need to do is discover what combination of telecommunication services, infrastructure services, application services, and so on are appropriate so that we can move these things. And before I do that, I'd just like to mention that in my country, we are doing things of this sort. But because of that unbounded complexity thing, we do different things and we try to organize. And in my case, I'm trying to start a new organization that will take care of an island, the 4th largest island of the Philippines, and find out how we can make use of this strategy of digital enterprise ecosystems to link people together, not for gaming or entertainment or education only, but all of them, so that we can achieve more value. Okay, so I know I'm helping another one on another island, but I understand that there are many others who are trying this approach. I call it the demand creation approach. You don't pay attention to the supply, to the technology, the supply of the technology. You pay attention to how you can change demand so that the suppliers will align to the demand. Okay, and the last slide, I think it's an opportunity for us to select what in the middle layers we should select for given digital ecosystems. For example, if we talk about educational digital ecosystem, what do we do about it? What do we do about it at the city level? What do we do about it at the national level? Repeat that for health systems, for agriculture systems, for energy systems, and so on. So in short, what I'm really saying is we don't have to design from scratch. The resources are there. It's just mobilizing those resources to be shaped into one that responds to the needs of what I call digital enterprise ecosystems approach. And I know it's late in the afternoon. I'd like to end there, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc Bill, and may we call Sir Phillip to give some token of appreciation to Sir Bill. Thank you. So, Sir Phillip, can you stay for a while as we recognize our sponsor for this event?
Yeah, we're running a little bit behind because we lost our dancers at the start. So if you just excuse us being about 5 minutes late with all this. As ever, this event is not possible without our sponsors. I'm not going to read each one out by name, but we have them on the screen behind. Apricot would like to express our grateful thanks to all our sponsors, all our returning sponsors. Some of these organizations have supported Apricot for many, many years, and without your support, we won't be able to hold this event at the scale that we're doing. So a big thank you to every organization, all on the screen here. Really appreciate the support that you've shown for this event. As I say, many of the sponsors have their booths outside. I encourage you all to please go stop by the booth, chat with the sponsors. Again, thank them on behalf of Apricot for their support of the event. They rely on you and the participants to go meet them as well, so that they feel as part of the community as you all are. So again, grateful thanks to all our sponsors. Thank you.
May we call on Mr. Achi for Sir Phillip to give his token of appreciation to Achi.
I'm not going to give a wooden cardboard box to Achi. What I'm going to do, I would like to thank, just before we finish, I would like to give a small token of appreciation to, so we normally do this at the end of Apricot, but I thought we'd do this at the start. So we'd like to show a token of appreciation. Oh, this is the other one, please. The other one, please. Yeah, it's live. It's live.
Here you go.
Sorry, I was so enthralled by Bill Torres's talk that I forgot to prepare myself. Anyway. So we normally do this at the end, but I thought it'd be good to, along with the sponsor recognition, to recognize our host and supporting organization. So our host, of course, is the Philippine Network Operators Group. Apricot works with the local network operator community to produce the event. And I'd like to invite the chair of PHNOG, Sarachi, to accept this token on behalf of Apricot. Thank you very much. You're not taking a selfie?
Bear with us.
How are you going to do this? All right, okay. Okay, thank you. And of course, the supporting organization without whom we couldn't do this event is Department of Science and Technology, Advanced Science and Technology Institute. And I would like to invite Sabani to accept token of appreciation on behalf of us. I could have given Danny the PHNOG one and actually the ST one, but I thought I'd do it this way. So thank you very much, Danny. Respect. All right, thank you. And back to the MCs. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Sir Philip. May we now call on Mr. Achi Echensa to take
Another
his-
selfie,
Uh,
formal selfie.
a closing selfie,
so
I guess.
this is the formal selfie. So we have to, you know, you understand about redundancy. So we have the official photographers here, and they're gonna put a ladder, make it real nice. So you don't need to stand up, you just need to smile. But while they're doing that, so I need to make sure that it's very well documented. I cut some guys on the side, so I'll do a trial shot where they're setting up. So please smile. 1, 2, 3. One more. Quality control. One more. 1, 2, 3. Got it. So so we're good with the photo. The rest of the guys will stay in front. This is the formal group photo. Please look at the camera. Stand. Sir, can you remove this? Patanggal. For the video, please say Apricot 2023. 1, 2, 3, go. Apricot 2023. Please wave. Wave. Apricot 2023. 1, 2, 3, wave. You know how about post editing, so we will sort that out. Thank you. Back to the MCs.
Conclude our opening preliminary. Thank you for the keynote speakers, Mr. Paul Vixie and Mr. Bill Torres. Reminding, the session will now be ending by 4:30. And please be informed that our opening social will be at the Conrad Hotel. The bus will be picking up at 6. 4 buses will be roaming around. So I hope you all guys will be there. See you and
See you to the part 2 of our opening day at the Conrad Manila. That's all. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Hindi na sunod.